In the next few weeks, Canadians will start to get their T4s from their employers, which means that tax time is just around the corner. One policy debate that is brewing in Ottawa is whether or not the CRA should auto-file on behalf of taxpayers. Those who support the change argue that this would simplify paying taxes for millions of Canadians and potentially ease the stress around tax time. However, not everyone is convinced that autofile is the best path forward, including our next guest, Franco Terrazzano from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Franco, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Now, I want to start with the UK because I know they have a similar program to autofiles, and they actually autofile taxes for citizens. I'm curious, is that program not working out, and is that why Canadians have a little bit of hesitation around going through with this?
Well, what the UK example proves is that automatic tax filing doesn't remove the headache of tax season, it just delays it. Okay, taxpayers are still going to have to double check the CRA's homework to make sure we're not getting overbilled, overtaxed. The Montreal Economic Institute, a Canadian think tank, has looked into this, and in 1 year alone, there were 6 million taxpayers receiving incorrect returns from Britain's tax agency. Three-quarter of those returns were overbilling taxpayers. So you give the CRA more power to file your taxes, expect your tax bill to go up.
Now, you've expressed that there are concerns over mistakes made by the CRA. Now, in an autofile situation, what happens if the CRA actually does make a mistake on your taxes?
Well, good luck getting the CRA on the phone when they inevitably mess up and overtax you, right? I mean, just look at the CRA's history of incompetence. Well, the taxpayers ombudsperson said that the office was flooded with complaints over the CRA. Or, even relatively recent, you had the CRA handing out COVID subsidies to hundreds of dead people, people who are in jail, people not living in Canada, or people who are still children. Or look at the broader government incompetence here, where the government can't even pay its own employees properly without costing taxpayers billions of dollars more. And the government can't even launch a simple app like Arrive can without soaking taxpayers for about 60 million bucks.
And would you say that there are privacy concerns with the CRA auto filing taxes?
Yeah, I think that could be a concern if you're giving the CRA more power over Canadians. But, I think one of the biggest concerns here is a conflict of interest issue of having the CRA act as both tax collector and tax filer, right? You, Canadians, want to keep as much of your own money as you can. The CRA wants to squeeze as much money from you as it can, right? So, not to mention, the government is broke. It's more than $1 trillion in debt. So at the end of the day, you got to remember your accountant or your lawyer works for you. These broke government bureaucrats do not.
And is there a way to kind of mediate or prevent those things from happening? So finding, I guess, a middle person or a better process for the CRA to be able to auto file those taxes, but also not steal money from you.
Well, the CRA shouldn't be auto filing, right? Like we should not have this conflict of interest. Right? Like, so look at this, right? Not only should you expect your tax bill to go up, but think about what happens when you give the CRA more power. Well, that also means that taxpayers now have to pay for more bureaucrats at the CRA, which is already bloated, right? Like the CRA has about 60,000 employees. To put that into context, the IRS in the United States has about 80,000 employees. Okay. So in Canada, there's one tax bureaucrat for every 700 citizens, while in the US, there's one tax bureaucrat for every 4,000 citizens.
Now, I guess a big question here is, and you've kind of made it a bit clear that you're a little shaky on trusting the CRA to get the taxes right. Now, was there a good reason to doubt the CRA?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just look at the history of incompetence at the CRA, the taxpayers ombudsperson saying that they're flooded with complaints about the CRA. And look, when the CRA inevitably messes up your tax return and you should expect to be paying higher taxes because of this, good luck getting the CRA on the phone. Like trusting the CRA to do your tax return is like trusting your dog to protect your burger. Well, the burger is gone, and so is your wallet.
Now, we do just have about 30 seconds here, but is there a viable solution? What can be done to make tax time a little less stressful for Canadians?
Yeah, there's two things. First, I just want to say, look, hiring more bureaucrats isn't going to make life better for taxpayers. If the government really wants to help, the two things that they can do is number one, stop taking so much money from Canadians in the first place, cut out the middleman, cut taxes. And step number two is just simplify the tax code.
Franco, thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.